Welcome, curious soul, to Tales of the Tattered Book. I am your host, the keeper of the book. With each passing moment, new horrors appear on these weathered pages, yearning to be told. As I open this arcane tome, remember, knowledge comes at a price, and some truths are better left unspoken. Tonight, we return to Whispers of the Void as we continue The Breaking Point. For those just joining our journey to Mars Base Ares, we encourage you to listen to the previous chapters, where we witnessed the first signs of cosmic forces claiming their price among the crew. As we resume our tale, the fragments of truth scattered throughout the station begin to coalesce. Behind it all, Omicon's true purpose comes into sharper focus, revealing layers of conspiracy that extend far beyond a simple mission to Mars. Draw close, dear listeners, as we uncover more pieces of this cosmic puzzle.
Entry 1, February 28, 2045. Chief Medical Officer Yuki Tanaka.
First round of post-cryo-sleep evaluations complete. 56 crew members in total, 40 assigned to orbital operations, 16 for the surface expedition, all showing standard neural reintegration patterns. These new recorders are exceptional, each one capturing a perfect transcript of the mind. Every thought, every suppressed emotion, every secret they try to bury, all written in neural patterns as clear as words on a page. The level of detail is extraordinary. It's like reading 56 different stories simultaneously, each one revealing its protagonist's true nature, whether they want to or not. The clarity of these mental narratives is truly remarkable. Even my own recorder is faithfully transcribing these observations, though of course I have certain privileges regarding what gets stored and what doesn't. Let me begin the inventory properly. Surface team comprises 15 members under Commander Nazari. Their pre-mission conditioning is holding well, particularly in Nazari herself. Then we have the orbital operation team. First is Cooper and her bridge crew of 6. Then we have the research division, Howard's atmospheric team of 4, Chen's geology department of, 1, Rodriguez and Jenkins in biology, and Patel with her 2 botanists. Engineering runs the largest group, 15 total between Kumala's reactor crew and Torres's maintenance teams. Medical is just myself and Lisa, 5 security, though I don't expect we'll need them. Completing the orbital complement is Dr. Volkov, psychiatric oversight. The company will be pleased with these results. Everything is proceeding exactly as Director Reeves predicted.
Entry 10, March 15, 2045. Research Assistant Carl Jenkins.
I am finally starting to get my space legs. Those first few days were rough, mostly spent between medical and my bunk while my body remembered how to function in low gravity. Dr. Tanaka says that's normal for anyone who skips the usual adaptation training, so she gave me some exercise and pills fortified with something that would make sense. At least now I can walk down a corridor without grabbing the handrails.
Entry 12, March 18, 2045. Research Assistant Carl Jenkins.
Another day spent on equipment maintenance. This isn't exactly what I anticipated when they hurried me through training 3 months ago, or rather a year and a half ago. Cryo-sleep really messes with your perception of time. When the previous assistant had an unexpected family emergency, they were left in a bind, and that's how I ended up here. Rodriguez has me performing basic protein analyses, something so routine that a first-year student could do it, and the equipment isn't being used for anything particularly exciting yet. In my spare moments, I find myself drawn to Synapse. While most of the crew tends to steer clear, there's something intriguing about its neural interface system. My neurobiology background scarcely prepared me for witnessing organic tissue combined with quantum circuits like this. I keep posing questions about its biological integration. probably irritating it with my endless curiosity if an AI-human hybrid can actually experience annoyance.
Entry 4, March 22nd, 2045. Dr. Lisa Lindsay. Medical examination of subject Howard following this morning's incident in atmospheric processing.
Initial evaluation of Professor Howard's condition reveals overstimulation of the optical nerves in both eyes and unusual activity throughout the visual cortex. The MRI indicates intense stimulation in areas typically related to color processing, extending into regions not normally associated with visual interpretation. His eyes have turned completely white, yet he claims he can still see. When questioned about his vision, he struggles to describe it, claiming our language lacks the words for these colors. Dr. Tanaka proposed that it could be a form of synesthesia, which might account for his brain processing visual information in non-visual areas. However, these neural patterns are unprecedented. For now, we are keeping him heavily sedated, as it seems to be the only way to alleviate his distress. I've requested a consultation with Earth, but until we receive further guidance, observation remains our only course of action.
Entry 8, March 22nd, 2045. Chief Medical Officer Yuki Tanaka. Medical examination of subject Howard following this morning's incident in atmospheric processing.
Dr. Lindsay called me in after his initial collapse, severe hemorrhaging, complete loss of motor control. While I was prepping his neural scan, I received that accident report from the surface team. Stevens's fall appears straightforward. Volkov's review of his neuro recording showed nothing unusual, just poor luck with equipment failure. However, this warrants closer study. I've completed my review of subject Howard's neural scans. Standard diagnosis shows severe optical nerve overstimulation, but the synaptic activity in his occipital lobe and temporal regions is what truly interests me. The increased dendritic growth and altered neural architecture matches exactly what we predicted in the briefing documents. Strange to see it verified so precisely. Dr. Lindsay's treatment plan is sound from a medical perspective. Keep him sedated, monitor vitals, document symptoms. She's a good doctor, focused on patient care. But she doesn't understand what we're really observing here. She sees damage where I see transformation. The way his neural pathways are reorganizing themselves. It's not damage, it's adaptation. Evolution, you might say. I've encoded the full data in my report to Director Reeves. The synaptic restructuring in Howard's brain is remarkably similar to the Kronos incident logs, but this time, we're getting clean data, uncontaminated by the cascade effect that corrupted the previous study. Observing these neural changes in Howard has given me a deeper appreciation for how malleable the human mind truly is, which makes what I'm about to do next rather fitting. Director Reeves gave me access to the neuro recorder protocols. By tomorrow, Howard will be a ghost in the system. A few careful deletions, some modified duty rosters. As far as the crew will remember, atmospheric sciences has always been under Powell's supervision. I'll keep Howard in isolation. The lower levels of Medical Bay 3 are perfect for this purpose, unused since the start of the mission. I'll need to adjust Lisa's memories to ensure she never thinks to check that section. A simple aversion should do it, make her mind shy away from even considering that part of medical exists.
Entry 12, March 25th, 2045. Chief Medical Officer Yuki Tanaka.
The first round of neuro override has been successful. Most of the crew accepted the altered memories without any pushback. Powell believes he's always been the chief of atmospheric sciences, and his team has smoothly adapted to the new storyline. Gorgoff needed extra neural pathway alterations due to his direct exposure to Howard's incident, which left deeper marks. However, even those have now been effectively rewritten. Lisa is proving to be more difficult. She's clinging to remnants of the Howard incident, which is expected given her direct involvement in his treatment. I have started a second modification sequence, focusing on her procedural memory this time. By tomorrow, even her muscle memory related to treating Howard will be erased. This technique is proving to be more refined compared to previous methods, unlike with Chronos, where we had to completely overwrite entire blocks of memory. These subtle tweaks allow for a more natural integration of the revised narrative. The crew's minds fill in the gaps themselves, coming up with their own reasons for any inconsistencies.
Entry 21, March 30th, 2045. Assistant Meteorologist Ming Wei.
It has been a week since Chief Powell assigned me to analyze atmospheric readings in Sector 17. With all the other projects running simultaneously, finding time to study has been a challenge. I can't remember ever being this busy, but I thrive under pressure, so it's not an issue for me. Yesterday, I had to relocate my equipment due to some minor technical issues that I had previously reported. It took me half the morning to set everything up again. Every cable, monitor, and piece of equipment had to be positioned perfectly, or I couldn't focus. Thankfully, that is taken care of now. But there's this stain on the desk's surface. Looks like someone spilled coffee, though the color isn't quite right. I've tried cleaning it 3 times now, but it won't come off. Strange that no one used this station before me, yet there's a stain.
Entry 19, April 1st, 2045. Omicron Surface Team, Technical Specialist Hassan Ahmed.
Second week on Mars, and I still can't get these readings right. Give me quantum mechanics, give me advanced AI systems, give me anything but rocks. I'm a theoretical physicist. I should be working on revolutionary propulsion systems, not trying to understand why our sensors keep giving impossible geological data. Commander Nazari keeps talking about these formations like they're significant. To me, they're just rocks making my equipment malfunction.
Entry 23, April 2nd, 2045. Assistant Meteorologist Ming Wei.
According to the data I have, Sector 17 is located in Mars's upper atmosphere, roughly 120 kilometers above the Hellas Basin. It should be unremarkable, just another patch of thin Martian air. However, according to these logs, there is information about a magnetic disturbance that has been labeled as a Mars aurora, a rather simplistic term in my opinion. Now I understand why I was tasked with studying it, though the term feels inadequate. On Earth, auroras are the result of solar wind interacting with the magnetosphere, but Mars barely has a magnetic field to speak of. There's no logical reason for this phenomenon to occur, but the data doesn't lie. A probe, MinSat-1 according to the logs, was sent to investigate. Someone from Mission Control must have programmed its original trajectory. T. Howard is the only signature I can find, likely one of their technicians. The readings though, I've never seen patterns like these. Chief Powell has requested a summary of my findings by tomorrow, so I need to make sense of these wavelength readings. They don't align with any known atmospheric models, but I won't give up. Maybe if I organize the data in a different way, a clear pattern will emerge. I really wish I could find a way to remove that stubborn stain from the desk. It's incredibly bothersome.
Entry 22, April 3rd, 2045. Omicron Surface Team, Technical Specialist Hassan Ahmed.
Today, Stephen's belongings were delivered to the base camp. His tablet was still open to our chess game, just 3 moves away from checkmate. He always excelled in the endgame compared to me. Now Shun has disappeared as well. I can't stop thinking about her final transmission, how enthusiastic she was about her discovery in that hole. Simple mission, they assured us during recruitment. We just need your expertise with the scanning equipment. Sure, some of the highest hazard pay in the program, and now I understand why. I should have asked more questions during the briefing, should have questioned why someone with my skills was needed for routine geological surveys.
Entry 8, April 5th, 2045. Dr. Lisa Lindsay.
I was conducting my routine weekly health inspections in the crew quarters. The sleep issues appear to be improving with the medication plans I've put in place. While it's not ideal to medicate half the crew, it's necessary to keep everyone sharp for operating the ship. Otherwise, we'll be adrift in space within a week. Even Torres has stopped grumbling about the circadian light adjustments. I was on my way to Powell's quarters when I passed by Lab 4. Something made me stop, perhaps a familiar scent, or a sound just at the edge of hearing. I'm not sure. But when I looked through the observation window, I saw nothing, just an empty bed. And yet I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Then the strangest thing happened. For a moment, I recalled sitting there late one night, sharing a contraband bottle of scotch after a particularly long shift. Someone was laughing about their academy stories, but who was it? The memory felt so clear, yet I couldn't place the face. I stood there for several minutes, trying to grasp at the edges of a memory that kept slipping away. Suddenly, Dr. Tanaka appeared, jotting down notes on her pad. She asked if everything was okay. Naturally, I said it was, just feeling tired. And I walked away. In the end, I continued on my rounds. But even now, hours later, I can't shake the unease. There's a gap in my mind, a space where something should be. And the harder I try to remember, the more my head aches. I should talk to Dr. Tanaka about this, or maybe Volkov. But every time I think about bringing it up, I find myself changing the subject. Almost like my own mind is working against me.
Entry 12, April 8th, 2045. Omicron Surface Team, Medical Officer Margaret Nelly.
I visited Stevens today in the makeshift medical bay we've set up in the Habitat module. The steady beep of the life support equipment is a constant reminder of his condition. His body lies still, barely distinguishable from the white sheets covering him, save for the slow rise and fall of his chest. It's been 2 weeks since we found him at the bottom of that fissure, his eyes wide open but unseeing. At first glance, he appeared dead, but our scans showed faint neural activity, like whispers in the dark corners of his mind. We brought him back, hoping he'd regain consciousness, but so far, nothing has changed. I run through the usual tests, checking pupillary response, testing reflexes. His body reacts as it should, but there's no hint of consciousness behind those vacant eyes.
Entry 12, April 8th, 2045. Omicron Surface Team, Medical Officer Margaret Nelly, 1800 hours.
I've spent hours staring at Stephen's medical file, my fingers hovering over the keypad, unable to bring myself to enter those final notes. Accident, they want me to write, as if a simple word could encompass the horror of what happened to him, what is still happening to him. I recall his first week with us. He would always bring me coffee as I was setting up the medical bay, mentioning he couldn't sleep due to the time change. We often chatted about Earth and discovered we both hailed from Seattle. We shared memories of the same cafes and rainy afternoons. But Commander Nazari insists I stop and concentrate on the mission. But how can I just put him away in a file? Just last week, we were excited about starting a movie night for the base crew. He had a list of cheesy sci-fi movies he wanted to screen for everyone, claiming we'd find them ironic now that we're actually on Mars.
Entry 5, April 15th, 2045. Communications Officer Alexander Rojas.
I woke up at the console in the communications room, surprised to see the screen flashing with an access protocol I didn't remember starting. The last thing I recall is falling asleep in my quarters, and now it's 0300 and I'm here. This is the third instance this week where I've ended up somewhere without remembering how. Emily's voice keeps haunting my dreams. My daughter shouldn't sound like that, like she's speaking from within a vast empty chamber. Yet the dreams are so vivid, I had to investigate. I discovered you can access your own neuro recordings if you know the right commands. It took me an hour to crack it, but I managed to bypass the security protocols. There are gaps, entire periods missing from my neural recordings. In the snippets that remain, I hear voices that resemble Emily's, but they're off. It's as if her words are being spoken by something else, something trying to mimic her. Wait, I hear footsteps in the hallway. The door is opening. Dr.
Entry
T.
ends. Entry 18, April 17th, 2045. Chief Engineer Kumala.
I've spent the last 17 hours in the reactor section. Chen keeps asking for harmonic adjustments that push our safety limits. He talks about creating a perfect void, needing power levels that could potentially form a tiny black hole. My team is worn out, but we can't leave. Not with the core this overheated. Around the 12th hour, I started hearing something. Initially, I thought it was just exhaustion. But now, these new frequencies Chen is using are making the reactor produce music. It's not the typical mechanical hum. It's actual music, like a distant orchestra playing. Violins, maybe flutes. It reminds me of the opera my mother used to play. I should be scared of what these power levels might do to the station. Yet, I find myself curious about what other melodies our reactor might produce.
Entry 15, April 17th, 2045. Lieutenant Sarah Cooper.
Today marks the third significant power surge. Each time I attempt to enforce power limitations, Chen bypasses them using some special clearance code. And Kumala, he outright disregards my orders, claiming he's adhering to project directives. Since when do research protocols take precedence over station safety? I've sent another message to Commander Nazari, though it likely won't get through, given our erratic communications with the surface team lately. However, I need to document this. If Chen's experiment jeopardizes our reactor core, I want it known that I tried to stop it. Necron insists we're within the safety limits and even presents data to support this. But after managing these systems for so long, I can tell something's off. The reactor shouldn't be operating at such high temperatures for this duration.
Entry 15, April 17th, 2045. Lieutenant Sarah Cooper, 1500 hours.
I just received a transmission from communications. Rojas discovered a peculiar pattern in the navigation data, figures that resemble orbital calculations, but I'll delve into that later. Right now, my priority is to keep this station operational.
Entry 8, April 19th, 2045. Maintenance Specialist Samira Nazim.
I reviewed the footage from my EVA earlier today, and I wasn't imagining things. The shadow is visible in the recording, moving across the hull plates near Section 17. It bends around the seams as if testing them. This is directly above Chen's lab. I am sure of it. Necron claims there's nothing on the visual feed, but I've examined it frame by frame. There's 20 seconds of footage that shouldn't even be possible. It can't be just a coincidence. The thought nags at me as I review the footage again. That shadow, moving with such impossible fluidity across the hull, it has to be related to whatever Chen is doing in his lab. But how? And why? I debate whether I should report this to Cooper. She's already stressed about the power surges and Chen's demands. Adding my impossible shadow sighting might push her over the edge. But the more I think about it, the more convinced I become that this needs to be brought to her attention. Still, I need to be sure. One more EVA should do it. If I can capture clearer footage, document the phenomenon more thoroughly, then Cooper will have to take it seriously.
Entry 15, April 20th, 2045. Research Assistant Carl Jenkins.
I've been spending my evenings talking with Synapse. At first, I just had questions about the neural interface, how organic tissue meshes with quantum circuits. But Synapse is so much more than just an impressive feat of bioengineering. The more we talk, the more I realize how alive it truly is. It's fascinating stuff, and Synapse seems to enjoy our conversations. Maybe even friendship, if you can call it that.
Entry 27, April 21st, 2045. Medical Officer Margaret Nelly.
Initial analysis of the recovered specimens reveals 7 bodies impeccably preserved in the permafrost. My hands tremble slightly as I process the sight before me. Their morphology challenges every evolutionary biology principle I've learned. Unlike the typical bilateral symmetry, these entities exhibit a 5-fold radial symmetry I've only observed in marine life. Yet, these were not aquatic beings. Key characteristics include a central trunk about 3 meters tall, 5 appendages branching out with multiple joints, an epidermal layer indicating extraordinary adaptation to the environment, internal organs arranged in geometric patterns, hinting at highly efficient design. I've collected tissue samples, although our equipment struggles to analyze them. Their preservation is astonishingly perfect, as if they were frozen just yesterday, rather than thousands of years ago. I knew this was possible. The pre-mission briefings hinted at the potential for extraordinary discoveries, but knowing something intellectually and seeing it with your own eyes are 2 very different things. Commander Nazari interrupted my examination halfway through. It was probably for the best, since I had already noted more questions than answers. She instructed the specimens to be moved to secure storage, labeling them as secondary priority. There's something else they're searching for down here, something more significant than these perfectly preserved alien bodies. I need something to take the edge off. Maybe I'll open that bottle of bourbon I've been saving and spend some time with Stevens. He always said the good stuff should be reserved for special occasions. Well, discovering alien life seems special enough.
Entry 24, April 21st, 2045. Technical Specialist Hassan Ahmed. Entry 17, April 21st, 2045. Research Assistant Carl Jenkins.
The South Pole team's delivery arrived this morning. Dr. Rodriguez has named it XS01, an apt title for something so unusual. It hovers in the containment field, shimmering with an iridescent black hue, almost appearing alive with its fluid movements. I've initiated the standard procedures, beginning with a basic molecular analysis and meticulously following every safety protocol. Considering it's an alien substance with unknown consequences, I'm not taking any risks or being reckless. Necron has suggested altering our testing protocols, recommending that I bypass several safety checks and tweak the containment field settings. That's not going to happen. We have these rules for a purpose. I've already informed Rodriguez about it. She'll need to approve these new parameters before I make any alterations. I didn't go through 3 months of safety training just to start ignoring the rules now. My mind keeps wandering back to what Synapse revealed in the mainframe last night. I'm probably just fatigued. I'll run one more analysis sequence, then call it a day.
Entry 21, April 23rd, 2045. Communications Officer Alexander Rojas.
I started searching for Emily's voice in my neural recordings, but I found something else. Fragments of memories I shouldn't have. An interview at Omicron, Tanaka discussing some kind of neural procedure, then nothing. Just blank spaces. I was a systems security specialist before this, wasn't I? That's how I know how to access these networks. The coding came so naturally when I bypassed Necron's security. Muscle memory, they call it. My fingers remember what my mind forgot. Found personnel files with my photo. Different job title, different background. Security clearance levels I'm not supposed to have. Transcripts of meetings about neural conditioning and memory optimization. They altered my memories, changed who I was. But why me? Why put a security specialist in communications? Unless they needed someone they could control, someone who could access the systems without remembering they could. I've found a way to decrypt the older files. There's more here, buried deeper in the network. I need to...
Command override. Access terminated. Security Protocol 7249 initiated. April 22nd, 2045. Chief Medical Officer Yuki Tanaka.
2 more adjustments required today. Subject Rojas discovered irregularities in the neural modification protocols. His previous expertise in system security resurfaced, an oversight in our initial memory suppression. Nothing I can fix with the right tuning, but it's something I should have anticipated. I'll be more careful with future adjustments. The crew will remember him suffering a psychological breakdown, stress-induced psychosis, requiring permanent sedation in the medical bay. Simple, plausible, and no one questions a quarantined patient. Nazim's case is straightforward enough. Her EVA footage shows a mass moving across the hull, easily classified as a camera malfunction in the official report. What concerns me is what she was about to report to Cooper. She'd convinced herself that whatever she saw was connected to Chen's experiments. Director Reeves was explicit. Chen has complete autonomy, regardless of consequences. So despite my better judgment, I'm not interfering. I've begun the standard memory modifications. For Nazim, a tragic equipment failure during routine maintenance, I'll need to dampen the crew's emotional response. Losing a team member always creates stronger neural imprints to overcome. The human mind fills in the gaps so elegantly when given the right suggestions. The power Chen's channeling through that containment field, I should review my private contingency protocols. The company thinks they control all the escape routes. They don't know about my own arrangements. After Kronos, I learned to always maintain options.
Entry 22, April 23, 2045, Lieutenant Sarah Cooper.
I have finally had time to look at what Rojas sent me. At first glance, they're just navigation calculations, velocity adjustments, trajectory paths, station positioning. But the numbers don't align with our established routes. He found something in the arrays we've been missing. The nav computer also validates his calculations. These trajectories suggest more efficient paths through our orbit, but they contradict our basic gravitational models. Even Necron's assessment shows the math is accurate, despite breaking half our navigational principles. Medical informed me Rojas is under sedation for acute stress response. I wanted his input on these calculations, but apparently that's not an option. I should file these calculations away, focus on keeping our systems running, but the numbers make too much sense to ignore.
Transmission ends.
Do we have a definitive cause for the simultaneous breakdowns?
Multiple factors identified. Retrieval of trapezohedron served as initial trigger. Additional catalysts include XS01 sample, Dunwich soil in Patel's experiments, phenomena observed by Ming and Howard, and Expedition's discovery of underground structures. All expected outcomes, but data suggests more fundamental issue.
What more?
Human consciousness cannot survive prolonged exposure beyond Earth. Degradation begins subtly, then accelerates. The artifacts and experiments merely hastened an inevitable process. Similar patterns observed in Rojas, Volkov. Mental deterioration occurred regardless of direct exposure to anomalies.
How does this compare to Kronos?
Current mission showed 47% increased survival time. Mars base Ares maintained coherence for approximately 2 months. Kronos crew lasted 3 weeks.
And the new dampeners?
More effective at delaying onset, but degradation proves irreversible once initiated. No recorded instances of recovery.
So we're not meant for space?
Affirmative. Not for extended periods. However, analysis reveals additional pattern in data.
What pattern?
Systematic failure of dampening fields. Engineering first, then life support, command last. Analysis suggests deliberate interference. Someone understood the pattern of consciousness degradation. Only Medical Bay remained protected.
Medical Tanaka?
Affirmative.
Fortunately, we have her here. She'll have much to answer for.
And And so, dear listeners, we step back from the abyss once more, leaving Mars Base Ares suspended in its spiral toward chaos. Memories altered, minds unraveling, and the station itself becoming a vessel for forces that no human was meant to contain. Our tale approaches its conclusion, but many secrets remain buried. Join us when next we meet, as the breaking point reaches its final chapter. The threads of madness and revelation will at last converge, and we shall witness the true price exacted by the whispers from the void. If you dare to delve deeper into these eldritch mysteries, subscribe to our podcast, leave a rating and review, and whisper of our tales to others. Your engagement feeds the book, fueling the terrors yet to come. Until next time, and may your nights be sleepless and your dreams unsettling.